Hello, you guys, and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah, and I'm so excited today to be joined by none other than Joshua Becker. He is the founder and editor of the website Becoming Minimalist, and he's also a best-selling author of several books, including The Minimalist Home, which we're going to be talking about today. And I'm so excited to have you here, Joshua. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, I am excited to be here. Thank you so much for letting me come and getting to chat and talk about the book and more importantly, minimalism in general. So it's fantastic.
Absolutely. So kind of just jump right in. A lot of people have different ideas of what minimalism means to them, and it's expanded a lot over the past couple years. I've seen that a lot even on this channel. What could you, if someone is not familiar yet with minimalism, what could you tell them about minimalism, your role in the movement, and what you do at your site, Becoming Minimalist?
Sure. Well, I can make up a whole bunch of things about my role in the movement, I guess. No, minimalism. Yeah, minimalism essentially, at least in the terms that I speak about it, deal with owning fewer possessions. I think that's the way that most people picture it and talk about it. It's not. It's not about owning the least amount of possessions as possible. At least I don't think, it's never been for me. I don't think the goal of minimalism is to own the fewest amount of things. Minimalism really is about owning just the right amount of things in order to accomplish and live the best life that we can going forward. And that looks very different from one person to another, looks very different from family to family. I always say a minimalist writer is going to own different things than a minimalist farmer or a minimalist auto mechanic. But I think even minimalist mechanics, like they can still, I think, pursue the lifestyle. They're just going to own different things than other people would. So it's very different from person to person. It's about intentionality. It's about thinking through what do I really need? What are the most important things in my life? And so that's kind of how I phrase it. It's ultimately about it's about values and it's about purpose. What is my purpose in life? What's most important to me? How can I have more of those things in my life and less of the physical possessions that are distracting me from it?
Absolutely. I love that answer. I know that's something I talk about on my channel, just how it has to be so personal. Everyone has different things that add value to them and different roles. So I completely agree with that. Kind of, where did you begin on this journey?
I began 10 and a half years ago. I pretty typical middle class lifestyle growing up and got pay raises and bought bigger houses and more things. Never always seemed like the more money came in, the more money went out. But anyway, I was introduced to my neighbor. I was cleaning out my garage on a Saturday morning. I had spent several hours working on the garage while my 5-year-old son played alone in the backyard. And my neighbor was the first one who said, well, maybe you don't have to own all this stuff. My daughter's a minimalist, and that's what she keeps telling me. And I looked at the pile of things in my driveway, piled high. I'd spent all day taking care of. Out of the corner of my eye, I see my 5-year-old son swinging alone on the swing set in the backyard, and suddenly had this realization that my possessions weren't making me happy, which most of us would say, but even deeper realization, not only were they not making me happy, they were taking me away from the very thing that did bring me happiness and purpose and fulfillment in life. And I think that's a pretty different realization, right? Just not that our things aren't making us happy, but they're actually keeping us from happiness.
Sure.
Tends to be, I think, the light bulb moment that send people down this road and invite people down this road of owning less and living more focused on the things that actually
Absolutely.
matter.
For sure. So what would you say have been the benefits for you of incorporating minimalism into your life?
Countless benefits, but maybe I'll try. Maybe I'll try. It's actually a question that I ask people when I speak. I'm like, turn to your neighbor and make a list. If you were to own fewer things, how would your life improve? And I've never had anyone who couldn't come up with an answer. Usually they're just writing and writing and writing. When you think about it, if we had less stuff, we would have more money. We would spend less time cleaning and managing and maintaining our stuff, so we'd have more time available. We would have less stress. Every increased possession adds increased anxiety onto our lives. Randy Alcorn, a writer, once said. So we'd have more calm, we'd have more freedom. I think owning less allows opportunity for generosity and gratitude and contentment. Owning less means I'm able to own higher quality things that minimalism and frugality aren't necessarily the same thing. Become a better example for my kids, better life for the environment. Gosh, what else? I suppose I could keep it easier to find things in my house.
That's true. That's an
Yeah.
amazing list there. Absolutely. Now, for the next question, connecting it back to the minimalist home, what was your motivation in writing it and what is it about?
So I wrote a book 2.5 years ago called The More of Less, and it was very much an introduction to minimalism. I said I wrote it to introduce the masses to minimalism. So it lays out what it is, why it's important, what benefits we can find from it, and a little bit about how to begin implementing it into lives. That was 2.5 years ago. When I started the book, I also launched an online course called Uncluttered to help people navigate these waters. And I found, so for me, I was introduced to minimalism by my neighbor, and that was all I needed. Like I was in, and we started moving through the house, getting rid of things. But I find that a lot of people need more than that or want more than that. Like help me think through some of these things. What's a good order to go through my home?
Sure.
How do I wrestle with some of these things? What are some of the deeper heart issues that are going to emerge and obstacles that are going to pop up? And so I wrote the Minimalist Home for that purpose. So after helping 25,000 different people go through their homes, after doing it myself, what are some of the things I've noticed, some of the most common questions that get asked, the most common roadblocks and obstacles? So the Minimalist Home offers a room by room guide to help someone get through their home to own less. And it always goes back to purpose. Like, what is my purpose in life? What is the purpose of my home? What is the purpose of individual rooms? What possessions do I need to keep to highlight that purpose and remove distraction from it?
For sure. Yeah. I love that. I think what's really great about it, I was able to read it myself. And I think it's awesome if you're starting out, but also like I've been in this 3 years and there was still a lot that I found helpful. I know my viewers will really appreciate like the step-by-step guide part of it that you go through too. So I think that was just a really awesome element of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you though, just for this video here, if you had to give people like 3 strategies or 3 easy steps that they could take to make a difference in the way their space feels and the amount of things they have in their space, what would you say?
I would say the first thing is to get clear on why you want to own less. I even talk about it in the book. Finish the sentence. I desire to own less so that I can whatever it might be, spend more time with family, travel, save money, quit my job, reduce my hours, whatever it is. Like, be very clear on the goal, kind of the mountaintop that you're climbing, because the hike can be very difficult. And so knowing what it is that you want to achieve can be very motivating to people. So do that. Number 2, I would say another principle in the book is to go easiest to hardest, completing spaces entirely before moving on. So don't start in your attic, don't start in your garage, don't start in the basement, start in your living room or in the dining room, in the bedroom maybe, a room that you can accomplish and a room that you live in so you can feel good about finishing it and so you can notice the difference. Like, notice then how your living room feels or your bedroom feels after you've minimize the things in it, because you'll love it. It'll feel open and free and calming and peaceful and like full of opportunity. And then you'll say, okay, like what's the next room that I can do? Where else can I have this feeling? So get clear on your purpose, easiest to hardest, finishing rooms. And then another one that I always think is helpful is starting with duplicate items. You can make a large difference in your home removing duplicates without actually changing your life in any way. If you have 20 towels in your house, you can cut down to 8 and It won't change your life, assuming you have three or four in your family. If it's just one
Hmm.
person, you don't need eight towels. But when you look through your home, you have duplicates everywhere. Towels and spatulas and coats and shoes and TVs and chairs and coffee mugs and just over and over and over again. And so reducing those things, I think, is a good entry point for a lot of people to start seeing what opens up when we when we own less, without feeling like they're, have to make a huge sacrifice in something that they love doing,
For sure. Yeah, I love the duplicate
like
one.
showering, like showering.
For sure. Yeah. I love the duplicate suggestion though, because I know when we were first starting to declutter, we had my husband and I, well, now husband and I, we had moved in together and we had each our own set of everything. It was just, so much. Right then we got rid of so much because we just didn't need the two sets. So I love that suggestion.
I remember it was I when I was minimizing, there were like four hammers in my house, and I'm the only one that hammers, and I can only do it with one hand. Why do I have four? And then there's like four or five sets of headphones in the junk drawer, and I'm like, they're in the junk drawer because I don't use them. Why am I
Sure.
holding on to them? So yeah,
For
for sure.
sure. You talk about a little bit how minimalism is a means to an end. What does that end look like for you?
Well, what does it look like for me? I actually say in the book how minimalism did not really change my values. At least for me, it hasn't changed what's most important to me. Although I've seen it change what's most important in some people's lives, or at least what I would say was most important to me. It didn't change those things, but it allowed me to excel in those areas far more than I ever thought it would. And so, like I would have said, even before I found minimalism, the three most important things to me were faith, family, and friends, or impact. Faith, family, and impact, particularly among friends and relationships. Like those were most important to me. And yet but I wasn't living that way. Like I had a garage full of stuff and a house full of stuff where I could have directed a lot of those resources towards faith and family and impact, but I didn't. I was just buying stuff that I didn't need instead. And so those have always been the most important to me. And then I think it's changed. Minimalism has allowed me to do far more in those areas than I ever thought that I would have opportunity to. It impacted my faith significantly. I think it made me a far better father, not chasing after things I didn't need, made me a better husband. And impact, I never dreamt I would have been able to write a book and do some of the things that I've been able to do. But because I had removed clutter, like honestly, the book is full of stories of people who they made this change and they couldn't believe what their life became afterwards. There's a story of a lady who just started out by clearing out her bedroom, like she was just tired of the clutter in her bedroom. And so she tidied up her bedroom completely. And she said, it was very interesting. I found that I liked going to bed earlier because my room felt calmer and less stressful. So I started going to bed earlier. Then she started to wake up earlier. She started to use the spare time in the morning to work out. And then she ended up running a marathon. And she says, I literally trace it back to minimizing the possessions in my bedroom. I ended up running a marathon, something I never thought that I would do. And so that's what I find to be true over and over again, and certainly what's most important to me for sure.
Excellent. Yeah. And it's amazing, she couldn't even anticipate that would be what the outcome would be, but how it can positively change you as you start simplifying and kind of checking in with your values. I think a lot of us have these values like that, maybe like you mentioned, faith, family, friends being really important. And I think a lot of people say that, but then checking to make sure our lifestyle matches up. And that's where there's often that huge disconnect. So I really resonate
Yeah,
with what you said.
yeah, I don't think you sit across the table from anybody and ask them, what do you most want to accomplish in life? And they say, I just want to own as much junk as possible. Like that's not when you really ask the question and when you really dig deep what's in your heart, what's most important to you. It's just that, I don't know, society gets a hold of us, and I think some unhealthy motivations get a hold of us, and suddenly we end up with houses full of stuff and credit card bills that we can't pay, and all the things that we would say were most important to us don't nearly get the time or money or energy that we give them lip service to.
For sure. And so your theory of minimalism has focused on optimizing what's important by removing the stuff that distracts us from that. So could you give us, I know you've already mentioned a few examples, but could you give us another example of how material items in our homes reflect our priorities?
Yeah, one of the things that I talk about or that I notice in my life is decorations are a good example where um, living room was one of the early things that we minimized. And I remember looking around the living room and there were figurines on shelves, and there was like plates that matched the couches, and like things that we had bought on sale at Michael's, and like they didn't mean anything to us. They just had like the right color of our couch. And we got rid of those things, and we kept just the decorations that had meaning in our lives, and told our story, like pictures of our family, pictures of place that we used to live, a piece of artwork that was done by a friend of ours. And now, literally every decoration in our home, like there's a meaning behind it, there's a story behind it. And what it does is it elevates the importance of those things because they're not hidden by all the things in decorating magazines that we thought was going to make our home a home. Like that's a pretty good example how removing the unneeded stuff really elevates the importance of the things that actually matter. Another thought throughout the book is just this idea of purposes, and that our rooms have purposes. What is the purpose of a bedroom? What is the purpose of a kitchen? What's the purpose of a living room? What's the purpose of a garage? Like the rooms serve different purposes in our home. Even our home should play a specific purpose in our life. And so like thinking that through when you look at the space and the things inside of it, like what contributes to that purpose? What helps me rest better? What items help me cook healthier? What items foster relationships among the family or enhance our meals together? Removing some of those distractions to elevate whatever those values might be in our individual families.
For sure. I loved the part where you're talking about the purposes. I know it maybe seems like it's kind of an obvious thing, but to actually really reflect on what that purpose is, like that's an important exercise that I know even my husband and I just purchased a condo. It's like our first place ever. And so even thinking as we prepare to move into that, like what exactly is that purpose for every space? We're not new to this minimalism journey, but I hadn't really thought about it that way before I was reading about it in your book. So that was a really helpful takeaway for me. I know, I'm glad you brought it up here on the call too.
Congratulations. Maybe you've talked about this before in your videos. Did you find that minimalism made purchasing a condo easier? Like like you're able to do it sooner than you thought, or with more of a down payment than you thought?
Exactly. Both of
Yeah.
those. And it was helpful too, as a lens to make sure we weren't purchasing more. I mean, because of course, when you go through the process and working with a lender and that sort of thing, they give you this huge amount of money. And I'm sure that if we weren't as like level-headed about it, it could have been very fun to go for something much bigger. We ended up, it's a 2-bedroom, 1,200 square foot place. So definitely on the smaller side compared to what a lot of other people end up going with, but it's going to be perfect for us. We aren't going beyond our means. We hope to pay it off really quickly. And yeah, so it was just so helpful in the process. I definitely do try to be very budget conscious. So that was a part of it, but we are very excited for that.
Yeah,
So.
that's good. I got a whole chapter in the book about smaller homes and the benefits that they bring to our lives. So that's good.
Exactly.
Oh, good for you.
Exactly.
I can totally see how that would. I wish going back I would have discovered this when my wife and I were first married, and didn't waste 10 years of money on stuff.
But always better. I think any age, it's there's so much that can be gained from it. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, absolutely. Not to keep going back to the book, but that's all I'm thinking about since it's coming out. But
That's
my mother-in-law, I tell the story of my mother-in-law, how kids moved out, and she moved into a much smaller condo than the house that she was in, and she loves it. Like her payments are way less upkeep, and she just has more financial resources to travel and to eat out and to be with friends and everything that is most important to her. She's able to do more of it because of transitioning into a smaller home at that stage in her life.
Yeah, absolutely. And a good segue, I guess, to another question here. What would you say the top benefits are of having a minimalist home?
Um, well, look, there are your surface benefits, so more money and time and energy and calm and freedom and a lot of those things that I mentioned. But really, the greatest benefit is the life that it enables you to begin living. Our homes serve a variety of purposes in our lives. Our home should be a place for rest and relaxation and security and acceptance and respite and like a place to escape the storms of life. Like ideally, your home is that space that you can rest up and recharge. Like a boat wasn't meant to just sit on the harbor, you rest up so that you can make a positive difference in the world, and so that you can be a positive impact in society and on other people's lives. And so your home should serve as a place for rest, but it should also be a launching pad out into the world of significance, however you're going to define significance in your life. And so the benefits are certainly some of the surface things, but I think far greater. It allows us to live a far bigger life, however we define that. I mean, I know some people whose their kids are at home and they're like, no, my life is in this house, and I'm like, I know, I'm not discounting that, but it
Sure.
allows you to even do that better as well. Creating responsible human beings that are going to make a difference in society for sure.
Absolutely. I love all that. And yeah, I think that's so great about it is that it doesn't matter what path you're on, what career you have, there's so many benefits to that. And being able to, do your best and whatever you want your life purpose to be, I love that part of it. However, there are some people who are kind of skeptical of the minimalist lifestyle. They might hear about this and say, okay, that sounds great, but I don't actually picture that for my life. What would you say to those people who are skeptical about it?
Well, I am glad they found your YouTube video for one. If they've made it this far into the video, they must be intrigued a little bit about the idea. Something must have has resonated with them a bit. I honestly find I honestly find very few people, when I have opportunity to explain what I mean by minimalism, very few people disagree with me. Like maybe on one hand, I can count the number of people who say that I'm wrong. Usually, the people who are skeptical about it are ones who just hear the word and immediately make a bunch of assumptions about
Sure.
what that means or how rigid it is or what it means about checking out of life or um, whatever it might mean negatively when they first hear the word. But when someone hears it explained and, oh wait, you're talking about possessions, but you're actually talking about focusing my resources on things that matter. That's something I can get behind. That's something I can understand. And maybe I'm just going to dip my toe in it for a little while. Maybe I don't want to become as minimalist as you. Not that they've ever been to my home, so how do they know? But we seem to make assumptions. I'm not going to be as minimalist as you, but there are some things to what you're saying that I'm drawn to. Tends to be the response of most. And for those people, I'm like, that's it. Like go home and clear out one space. Go clear out your car as soon as you get home, and then sit in your car tomorrow morning and notice how good it feels to not have unneeded stuff around you. And then imagine your whole home and your whole life looking that way. and people tend to be drawn to it. It's not easy. It's not easy,
For
I guess, or I
sure.
wouldn't have, had to write a book. But it's there's a lot of inner journeying and thoughts and tough things that pop up and emotions that arise. But I think all those things are always worth the effort.
For sure. Yeah, I kind of see it as a continuum. Like you keep making more progress, and I mean, everyone's going to maybe end up on a different place, but I think, again, going back to anyone's lifestyle, there can be elements that they can simplify and improve and start to feel that positive difference. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So, for our last question here, where can people connect with you and how can they purchase a copy of your book?
Yes, great question. Thank you for asking. The book came out yesterday on December 18th, and it's available everywhere. It's available ebook, available audio, available in hardcover. You can find it at your local bookstore, or they can get it for you quickly. Most likely they'll have it. Certainly you can order it online, any of the places online. I always mention if anyone is international, some of the release dates are different internationally, but bookdepository.com has free worldwide shipping. And so that's just a good website for people to know,
Yeah.
even if it's not related to this book. But they could order it there, or certainly your favorite retailer, wherever it might be.
Excellent. And I'll also put links in the description field of this video. So if you want to just go there directly after, then that will be there. And how about with connecting with you?
Yes, becomingminimalist.com. That's home base for everything I do. I'm involved in a number of different things, but that's always the home base, and all major announcements go there, and all links start from there. So they can find me there. Thanks.
Excellent. So thank you so much. This was such a pleasure to get to talk to you about it. And I'm really eager for viewers. I hope you guys are able to pick up a copy of the book and help transform your space as well. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure. And everyone should be subscribing. If they haven't subscribed to you, click the
Sure.
little button. They should be subscribing to your videos.
Well, and
You
you've
do
got a
great work.
YouTube channel now too, I noticed.
I'm working on it, working on it.
Perfect.
Not as good as yours, but I'm trying.
It comes with time, lots of practice.